Welcome back to Ask Rip, our famous question and answer series where I, Rip, take your questions that you have submitted to us through Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or email or the website or any other clever way you can think of to participate when the word goes out to you to send stuff to us to ask me, Rip, for Ask Rip. Okay, and once again, I've never read these. Have no idea what is in this pile. Not particularly interested, but I don't know what this is. I just pick these up, I read them, I say the first thing that comes out of my mouth, and you get to hear it on this recorded way of communicating with you, Ask Rip style. Okay, now, Real Ethan Lamana through Instagram asks, what change in stress will result when using a clean versus a power clean in the Texas method? Well, that's an interesting question. The question really is, why do we use the power clean instead of the clean, what is called the full squat clean, or just the clean in Olympic weightlifting talk? We use the power clean because the pull has a longer range of motion, and for our purposes, we would like to train a longer range of motion. We don't want to cut off the range of motion because you don't have to pull a bar as high to squat under it to catch it and then front squat it back up as you do if you're going to catch it at the top of the pull, which is a power clean. I don't hold to this nonsense about calling anything that's caught above parallel a power clean. I think that's just stupid. I think obviously a power clean is when you catch it at the top. And the only squatting down you do is cushioning the rack with your knees and hips a little bit, just like landing from a jump. If it doesn't look like landing from a jump, it's not a power clean. So we want you to power clean all through the program because this is a strength training program. It's not Olympic weightlifting. If you want to do Olympic weightlifting, you're going to have to practice the clean. You're going to have to train the front squat. You're going to have to practice the overhead squat. You're going to have to you're going to have to conversely either split clean or split snatch. And Texas method, the normal version of the program that we provide in the books is an extension of the normal strength training program we're just doing. It's not a competitive lifters thing at all. If you want to do the Olympic lifts, then you have to learn how to clean. The change in the stress is that we want you to pull, we want you to continue finishing the pull. To pull the bar as high as you can so that the pull operates over a longer range of motion, and that's specifically the stress we would like to maintain throughout the Texas method, since we're not Olympic lifters here. Okay, now, Daniel Keel, 1975, through Instagram asks, I want to hear Rip explain his why. I want to hear Rip explain his why. What is the real reason for all of this? What drove what we see today? His why. That's an interesting question. Is that like I have an ask for Rip? This is like the use of words as nouns that aren't really actually nouns. It's very fashionable now. What's another example of that everybody? I have an ask. I have a good read. I finished that's a good read. That's a good listen, a good watch. Isn't that fascinating that people do that these days? Okay, Ancient Mathematics asks another question. Is there any time when it's appropriate to marinate steak? Well, sure, Ancient, when you have a shitty steak. I mean, not everybody can afford the high-quality meat that is in my freezer. And if you've got to buy a shitty steak at Walmart, hell, marinate the thing. They've already marinated it for you, but you can marinate it. Put some wine on it, garlic, various spices that you like, salt, white wine. In fact, I think we're having stir fry tonight. We're going to marinate the pork. We're going to marinate the pork in white wine, soy sauce, a little olive oil, some Worcestershire sauce, which is one of my favorite things to marinate pork in. What else goes in there? Garlic and garlic. You know, good grated garlic, put that in there. Yeah, you marinate shitty meat. That's what it's for. So you can eat it. All right, now. DJ Rusinak asks, your opinion on sous vide steak? I just got one for Christmas. All right, now, am I pronouncing that correctly? Yeah. Sous vide? That's where you take a steak and put it in a plastic bag and then put it in the toilet tank for a couple of days and let it soak at room temperature in water for some reason, and then you take it out and eat it.
Nailed it.
That's how.
Yeah.
Why don't you just cook your steak? I don't understand it. I know how to cook steak. I don't want to soak it in water for 3 or 4 days. I don't have 3 or 4 days. 2 or 3 days. I don't have any. I just have the 15 minutes it takes to cook the steak. Cook the steak. Learn to cook. Okay. Neil Starbird from Instagram asks, do you have a good oxtail recipe? No, I do not, Neil. I just have some advice to you. Clean the damn thing off before you cook it. Do you know where the tail is? You know what gets on that, right? Always wash it off before you cook it. Okay. Bradley Gish asks, this is on Facebook. On an older episode, someone asks, where is the best restaurant to order a sandwich? I tried to backtrack and find the episode, but could not. I remember you mentioning a place in Lexington, Kentucky. Would you mind recapping that? Well, Ramsey's in Lexington, Kentucky. It may be the best place for a sandwich I've ever ordered one. They have a thing there called the hot brown. Everybody knows what a hot brown is, but I had a Reuben from this place. Oh God, that's been 6 or 7 years ago that I still remember. That's the best Reuben I've ever had. If you live in Lexington, I don't see any other reason to stay there other than to eat at Ramsey's. So that's where I would go if I were you. All right, now B. Price, 81, asks, Rip, I'm 5'10", 185. I want to get stronger, but my wife wants to keep my abs. My numbers are 360 squat, 465 deadlift, 320 bench, 200 press. Divorce or just be weak? Well, all right, look, I want to get stronger, but my wife wants to keep my abs. Well, let her have your abs. What's the problem? Give her your abs. And then you quit worrying about them and get strong. Let me ask you a question. Does your wife have abs? Does your wife have abs? Well, why not? Well, why don't you say, turn that thing around, honey? What are you yelling at my ass for? You don't have any abs. You know, when you get abs, I'll get abs. Tell her that. See what happens. I kind of have an idea what's going to happen. But all right, Mastodon24 asks from Instagram, what was done in the 60s and 70s for shoulder mobility? You cannot go anywhere on the internet today without seeing a new facial release or rehab routine for improving overhead positioning. How do great lifters such as Starr, Hoffman, March, etc. work around asymmetries or ROM limitations? More importantly, for today's trainees, focusing on the press and snatch, what information is worth implementing? Well, you know what Starr, Hoffman, March, all those guys did for shoulder mobility? They pressed. They pressed. They locked out their presses overhead. And they locked them out evenly, so there were no asymmetries. They locked them out evenly. They pressed. They bench pressed. Oh, they probably did some stick dislocates because, you know, Starr showed me that a long time ago, but it's not necessary. You just press. Just press correctly, press symmetrically, and asymmetries go away, and overhead positioning is corrected, and prehab, rehab, I'm pulling out all of the buzzwords here. Prehab, rehab improves, and more importantly, you don't waste a bunch of time on your workout and doing, you know, California type shit. Okay, that's all for today. Thank you for joining us for Ask Rip, and we'll see you next time on Ask Rip.